This is a matter of deen. This ilm is a matter of deen. You be careful who you take your deen from.
Asma bint Abi Bakr, the daughter of Abu Bakr, Asma, who said that we broke fast one day in the days of Ramadan when it was cloudy. And it was in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and after we did that, the sun appeared through the clouds after that. So one of the narrators said to Hisham, who was Hisham ibn Urwa, the Tabi'i, so did they make that day up? And he said, وَبُدٌّ مِّن ذَلِكَ. And of course they did that. Yes. And it was translated here, that was inevitable. Another narration that Al-Bukhari gathers, Hisham was responded a different way, which causes some confusion for us when we study this narration. He says, "La adri aqadaw am la." He said, "I'm not sure if they made qada, if they made this day up or not." And then based on the two different narrations of Hisham now, the scholars then differed after that. Had it been as simple as what's in Abu Dawud's narration, that of course they made the day up, then the issue is settled. It happened in the time of the Sahaba. During the era of the Messenger ﷺ, they broke their fast early by mistake, then they had to make it up, and that's the end of it. The issue is closed. However, this other narration comes, throwing the same narrator, Hisham ibn Urwa, and he says, La adri aqadaw am la. I don't know if they made qada or not. And that's in Bukhari. So, Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyya, in his notes to Sunan Abi Dawud, or the Mukhtasar of Sunan Abi Dawud by al-Mundiri, he says that the ulama have two different positions on this issue. One is that they have to make qada, they have to make the day up. They have to finish fasting once they see the sun up, and they have to make that day up because they broke their fast intentionally during the day of Ramadan. And the majority of the scholars have this position. From them, Malik, Shafi'i, and others. Yeah, the point is here, the angle of the scholars who say that they broke their fast intentionally in the day of Ramadan it wasn't that they slipped and forgot and ate a piece of food. They intended to break their fast. Amdan, they intended to break their fast. And it was actually during the daytime, but they didn't know that. You're going to see the angle that Ibn al-Qayyim has here to support the other position is a very clever angle, in fact. So the first position is the majority of the scholars that they said that the day must be made up. And this is also a fatwa found in the Majmu' al-Fatawi of Sheikh bin Baz, that is in line with the majority of the scholars. And he quotes, answering a question similar to this, that this is the position of the majority. There is a story of this happening also in the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab, radiyallahu anhu. However, there is some differing in how the words of Umar are to be understood. To summarize that, it's similar to the story, similar to the hadith itself that we have from the Prophet ﷺ or from the companions, that it's not entirely sure if Umar made the day up and ordered the people to, or if he excused them from that. So, confusion upon confusion, if you try to use Omar's hadith, it's not entirely clear and helpful in this case, which is already based on a narration which is not entirely clear in its meaning. The second position held by the scholars is held by most of the Zahiri, people who held to the Zahiri madhab, and as well Ishaq ibn Rahawayh. They said, and also Al-Hasan al-Basri and Mujahid and other scholars, they said that this person is considered to be like a forgetful person. So then his eating should be considered like the eating of a forgetful person. Let's say that Allah fed him and his fast is still valid. So there's no qada, there's no making up the day in that second opinion. Ibn al-Qayyim mentioned them after showing that the first position was the majority's position. He went on to aid and to support the second position. And he said, in dealing with that, why? If you're going to excuse a person, because basically in the Sharia, the jahil and the nasi, the ignorant one and the forgetful one, they're almost always paired together as being excused. They're usually excused in the same manner. If it's done upon ignorance or done upon forgetfulness, no problem. So the excuse of ignorance and the excuse of forgetfulness are most often paired together, and no differentiation is made between them. So he said, why in this issue should there be a differentiation made? Why in this issue should one have to make qada and the other not have to make qada, when it's a very similar excuse? Add to that the jahil, the one who is ignorant of the sun setting, he didn't know the sun wasn't actually set. He was, in fact, acting upon knowledge, trying to follow the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and break the fast and to hasten in breaking the fast. So he has more right to be excused because of his eagerness to actually follow the Sharia. Not that he was heedless and forgetful, but rather that he was completely comprehending his situation and trying to the best of his ability to do what the deen asked him to do. So being that that's his case, and the ignorant one and the forgetful one are often excused together, or almost all of the time, why make a distinction here, as the majority have done, and say that the one who did so out of ignorance, not knowing that it wasn't actually the sunset, he has to make the day up, and the forgetful one doesn't have to make the day up? It seems more correct, and he says it's even min babi awla, it's more befitting and more deserving that the one who broke his fast ignorantly, not knowing that the sun had actually set, but intentionally, it's more deserving that he be excused and he not have to make the day up. And so he supported that position. And Allah knows best.